Hey, I'm Tommy Chong. Welcome to High on Homegrown.
Yes, everybody, and welcome to High on Homegrown, the cannabis podcast from PercysGrowRoom.com. In this episode, we're going to be talking about good etiquette for family gatherings and parties. This is the last episode before Christmas, so happy Christmas to all of those who celebrate it. Happy holidays to everybody else. I hope you all manage to spend some time with your families and just get some rest and eat loads of good food. And I hope Santa brings you some nice things. So anyway, let's go on with the grow guides, and I'll speak to you at the end of this. Roll something nice, and I'll see you in a bit. So it's Christmas time, nearly. You've got 2 days. When this episode goes out, it's only going to be 2 days until Christmas is here.
Man.
And you're going to be visiting family and visiting friends and shit. And not all of them are going to be cannabis consumers. And they probably will not be as much of a cannabis enthusiast as you are, because you listen to this show, which means you're pretty much an enthusiast. So we're going to try and explain ways which you can be polite and respectful with your cannabis use, so you don't get in anybody's way or piss anybody off only unintentionally, because not everybody is as accepting as others when it comes to the cannabis use. They'll start calling you a devil druggie and a degenerate and shit, and then you're going to have to get the fists out and start throwing them around and be like, what you fucking say to me? You don't want to do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't, yeah.
No.
Just so we're clear, don't do that. You are an advocate for the cannabis plant.
That's right. Be good, man. Show people how, and then they might be more inclined to be like, oh, he's a really cool, laid back guy. Maybe we should, or girl, maybe we should try some of this cannabis so we can be laid back, cool people like they are. That's what you want to try and do.
You don't know my family.
Yeah, it gets complicated with family sometimes.
It does, really big time. Depending, especially in prohibition lands, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But this is it, man. Not everybody's into that shit. And I've heard stories before. An old friend used to tell me a story where he lived in South Africa at the time, and one particular Christmas party he had the in-laws round, and he made some gravy and he put some cannabis in this gravy. And they were dead set against cannabis, but, you know, they had some of this cannabis gravy without knowing it had cannabis in it, and enjoyed it very much. But still, that's rule number one, man. Don't be spiking anybody with the weed.
That's a risky move.
Yeah,
Dosing anybody without their permission is that's
right,
move,
man. And even then, you know, because you don't want to spike them, so they're unaware that they've had cannabis. But even when they're just occasional smokers, and you say you're outside smoking some that gorgeous lemon tree, you know what I'm saying, Savants? And then somebody comes out and be like, oh, I smoke sometimes. Can I have some of that with you? And you'd be like, yeah, cool, because you don't mind sharing, because you're a stoner, you know. But make sure you tell them this is really strong shit, and you should be very careful with it. Don't be just chonging it away, just a couple of drags, pass it back, you know. And then if you're not mash up, then you can have a couple more drags. When people have cannabis, you want them to have a nice experience with that cannabis, so they'll be more inclined to do it again in the future. So just bear that in mind when you go and share a joint or a blunt or a bowl or something with somebody who doesn't smoke very often.
That's a fact there, because I have shared a joint before with someone who was a newbie. And unfortunately, the only thing I had with me at the time was this LSD that I'm smoking today. And I think it was 3 hits deep. This guy was so zoned out. It was completely.
And then you're babysitting.
Well, I mean, it was a bad experience. It took him years before he decided to even try it again.
It sounds like a bubble hot gummy.
He kept saying the same thing. It's like, you grow this in your garage? Like, what the hell, you know? No, but it's a bad move. Don't do that, you know?
Yeah. And just bear that in mind when you go to share with somebody. And it's always, and we always say this, man, this is something we should do say often. You never spike anybody or give them cannabis without their knowledge. They need to know that they're taking this shit. Don't fuck them over. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So don't spike any of the Christmas food, and go to Margie's website and look out for anything that you can make for Christmas dinner that could be edible or infused with some cannabis. And
that's right.
Yeah. But
I actually just made some delicious fudge, a recipe that was provided by, I believe, Savants.
Nice.
And yeah, that's a nice way to do it. Give someone a little piece of fudge. Let them know what's in it.
And Marge always has great advice as well. He's like, make 2 versions, one with the cannabis in it and one without. So you can just take a few nibbles and be like, that's some good shit. I'll eat the stuff that doesn't have the weed in now, so I don't end up like bubble hawk on a Saturday
I was gonna say that's clearly where I went wrong.
You don't want all your dinner guests drooling at the table because
Imagine
you make it to
that.
dessert.
You make this shit so fucking strong, everybody's asleep halfway through the turkey. You'd be like, oh, it wasn't me, it was the tryptophan, honestly.
When we bring
what's
edibles,
more- go ahead.
edibles to a party, I always like to decorate the edibles so that it's very obvious that it's got cannabis in it, like taking brownies and taking a stencil
Yes.
and just using powdered sugar and stenciling a cannabis leaf on top or something like that.
Yeah.
Or putting 420 on something, just anything.
Yeah.
So that somebody does not come up by accident and grab something.
Right.
Skull
Yeah,
and
I don't-
crossbones, man, they'll stay away from it.
That'll work. That anything, but market. By all means, market.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but a sly smile and a wink does not constitute telling people that it's got weed in it. Just
Good point.
so we're all aware.
Good point.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's got to be a little more obvious than that. Like,
I mean,
Use your
stoners may
words.
pick that up, but yeah, use your words like a big person.
yeah,
And then the whole smoking thing, you know, there's lots of people who don't smoke cannabis, and smoking cannabis in a house, that smell lingers for a long time. That's why you have those specific Airbnbs for people who use cannabis, because the smell of cannabis will linger for ages after it's been smoked in a house. And some people might not want you to smoke weed in their house, man. That's something that has to be taken into consideration as well, you know. So go outside and smoke out there. Give yourself 5 minutes after you've smoked that shit for the smell to evaporate. Unless you're in Canada, because you'd be dead if you did that. Just fucking say, fuck you, I'm smoking in here. But what do you guys do? So, Marge, I mean, do you visit friends sometimes where they don't allow smoking in the house?
I don't smoke in my house.
Right.
Yeah, well, I don't smoke joints in my house. I use my dry herb vaporizer in my house all the time, but I don't usually smoke joints indoors because the smell does linger so much. And I live with people who don't smoke at all, like
Right.
my spouse and my mother-in-law are not cannabis users really. So yeah, out of respect. So yeah, smoke outside, and if you know it's going to be fucking cold, just bring a toque. You'll survive.
What are you saying, TG? Because do you smoke in your house?
Well, I am right now. I shouldn't be.
Right.
I'm
Gonna
trying
get
to
in trouble.
fucking. Oh yeah. Well. Oh fuck. I already did. She came back from groceries and she's like, "It fucking smells in here."
Right.
And I'm like, "No, it
That's
doesn't.
the
I
only
can't smell
problem with
anything."
smoking weed. It's like
I can't
it
smell
does
it.
have that smell. Yeah, you can't. That's because
Just yeah, that's a good etiquette. Make sure everybody else is smoking, and then no one will complain about the smell because everybody will be nose blind. Perfect.
Good answer. Good
Perfect.
answer.
right.
Yes.
No, I would like. I don't know. I'm a really bad person to ask because I don't give a fuck. I just smoke. You know, like I don't smoke in my house, but I don't like.
What about
make
when
a
you visit
point.
your parents? What do you do then?
Well, smoke. You know, they smoke cigarettes. So I don't smoke
Right,
inside
right.
the house. I could. It's more about like Cheryl's asthma, right? That's why I don't smoke in the house. And plus, again, it does linger. And I don't want my shit to smell like weed all the time. But no, like the garage. That's the classic Canadian thing. Probably American, you know. Just go into the garage for, you know, fucking whatever.
Just gonna go check the tire
safety,
pressure.
fucking break, or yeah, just,
Right.
going
Yeah.
for a walk with the cousins or whatever, you know,
Mhm.
that kind of shit. But yeah, we go to the garage. I have heaters in my garage. My dad at home has like his garage is heated with a gas furnace and shit. So
Nice.
generally we just go to a place where you can smoke more freely because it is fucking cold
Mhm.
outside.
Mhm.
When I worked up north, it was like fucking 35 and shit. And I remember I was out there and my hand like was so fucked, like just dry and like just craggled.
You got
nasty.
I know what
frostbite
that's
in your
like.
toes and shit. Fuck,
Yeah.
man.
You know, I don't understand cigarette smokers that like do that. And then you're just like,
yeah, it's like 20
Oh,
times a
fuck.
day.
You
Yeah,
know, like,
for those of you listening too, when he says 35, he's talking about 35 below 0 Celsius.
yeah, yeah. It
Fuck.
just is
Cold
fucked.
as
But
fuck.
you kind of get acclimatized to it at that point. I was
Man,
at
even
least.
your
It didn't
fucking
feel very
smoke's
cold.
freezing at that temperature.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
It was
That's
That
where
was-
Your
clouds come
eyelashes are
from.
freezing. Yeah.
some of the coolest smoke I ever saw was when I was driving back from the drills like 3 a.m. and it was like 35 below, right? But I'd stop in the middle of the fucking tundra, basically. Yeah, the basket base. There's nobody around probably for 500 miles. Like nobody, like no communities or anything. There's drill camps and shit. But it's the eeriest thing. But it's so still up there, and it's so cold that when you smoke, it's like this stratus of clouds that just sits there. You can go inhale it again almost if you want it. So cool. So cool. But anyway, sorry.
It's so cold, not even the air wants to move.
No, it's true. It's fucked.
What about you, Monkey? What do you do when you visit people who you have to stay pretty hidden because you're in an illegal state as well, right?
Absolutely. And so what I usually do is I rely on edibles. I'll dose before I go, and then I'll bring small bottles of oil, like 5 mils of oil with me, and just, excuse myself. And if I need it, that's what I'll do.
Mm-hmm.
But, I actually have very, very little friends that I can openly consume with, because all of them have friends that don't. So it's always a mixed crowd, one of those things. So in a mixed crowd, you're better off just not making waves, kind of slide out the back real quietly and do what you have to do. Now in big crowds, bigger parties where there's a lot of stuff going on there, it's always, man, you know what I'm talking about. It's always easy enough to find the smokers. Mm-hmm. You just kind of watch the people who are lingering around the outside edges. And usually if you slip out, somebody's right behind you. So in the larger gatherings, it's usually easy enough to find somebody, and in that kind of case, you slip back into the woods behind a house or behind a garage or something like that, because it's not freezing here. But that's usually what I do. But mostly I rely on edibles. That's what we'll do.
Nice. What about you, Bubble? What's your score?
Balls to the wall, bro.
You don't
Of
care,
course
does
it
he?
is. It's rose
Like,
rosin all day, every day.
I'm that type of guy that everybody knows I smoke anyway, so it's no point in hiding it. And I usually get someone will come out and be like, "Oh, can I have a hit of that?" But I'll usually do it outside. Like if it's at someone else's house, it'll be outside. If it's in my house, I've got my own room set up with the press, Dr. Dabber, the volcano, bongs, pipes, whatever else.
Neon paintings on the wall,
Yeah, LEDs flashing around, So I've got my own little nook that I'll smoke in. But yeah, if I'm going to someone else's house, I'll take my stuff with me, and I just find a spot that's away from the kids and away from the people that don't like it. And
the thing is,
then I get high.
Yeah, when you go out to smoke, after a few minutes, I mean, even after 5 minutes, when you come back in, you're still stinking of weed.
Oh fuck yeah!
Oh yeah. Well,
that's where the vape comes in real handy.
Right.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Like when we have company here that's not all into cannabis, the volcano usually gets put in the master suite, and we'll just kind of excuse ourselves and go enjoy a bag, and nobody even knows the difference.
Yeah.
See, I use that as like a roll call. So, when you walk back in, and that's how you find the others. It's like scenting for deer.
Right. How big are your Christmas gatherings? Holy shit.
You see the ones, yeah.
That's like 5 people.
No.
I always give it the old
big, yeah.
That sound. Every stoner knows that sound.
Yeah, the grinder.
the suppression was stopping it then, TJ.
Yeah, I know the sound you mean. The ding ding ding.
Yeah, tink, tink.
As you're everybody about, yeah.
Everybody that whips their head and starts sniffing is
man, even you get fucking a cigarette, we call them Rizzlers here, but smoking papers, man. When you get your papers and just rustle them together, people will be like, there is still going. I hear Rizzler being rolled.
Yeah.
Back in the day, man, it was the sound of the baggie being unrolled. That's just the way it was. Because you bought a weed was always in a baggie of some kind.
Always be like this.
Hear it coming out of a pocket.
So if you are going out to a family gathering and they don't know that you smoke at all, then you really can't fucking smoke, because you're gonna come back in and you might get you spray out and spray yourself and. You're just going to smell like weed plus whatever you've sprayed on yourself.
Right. It's always the way.
It doesn't work, man. So vaping is a good option. I mean, if you're using a dry herb vape, then that's still going to smell like you still smell a little bit like cannabis, really, but not so much. But if you're using one of those carts, with the oils in and shit like that, mixed with the propylene glycol or the vegetable glycerin, those kind of vapes, then you're not going to smell so much. when you
Use
that
these
shit.
vapes. This is pure cannabis.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
live
Is
resin.
it ganja wise?
Yeah. I
I've been
mean,
contemplating buying some more, but fuck, I've got
they
so
have
much weed.
fucking shirts now.
I
Oh,
know, but they're so convenient too, and they're
Yeah.
great. They are great if you're going somewhere and you don't want anybody to know what you're up to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just
These things look
bring
like
up to go
those,
outside.
you know, they look like fucking anything.
Yeah,
See, I'm
yeah.
doing my nicotine. I love nicotine.
Nicotine's my
Right.
favorite.
You just
Oh,
gotta
that's
go
okay if
hang
you want
out.
to kill yourself and get cancer, but if you smoke weed, fuck you. Like, I hate that. And we don't
Yeah.
get that
Yeah,
much here,
I know.
but whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that's the frustrating thing.
Vapes-
But when
vapes are good.
when you
one.
come across those people who smoke cigarettes and they'll go outside for a cigarette
Yeah.
and then stand there and look at you smoking a joint and they'll be like, "Oh, degenerate."
I don't like the smell of that thing, man.
You
I'm like,
know.
Right.
Oh, you
Have you
don't.
smelled your ashtray lately?
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Don't like the smell of your fucking breath, mate. Fuck off. Like-
Hey, speaking of, did you guys hear? This is a little off topic, but did they not ban cigarettes in New Zealand to people
Yeah.
born after
Yes, yes.
2008 or something?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
anyone
I thought-
born after a certain date, banned.
Right.
Grandfathered in, but after a certain date, you're done.
You know what's going to
Yeah.
happen? You know what's going to happen? Anybody want to make a
Black
prediction?
market.
There we go. The same thing that happens to everything else to be a legacy market. There's going to
It will
definitely
Be
be
surprised. There already
a
is.
legacy
Like,
market,
Mhm.
but I don't know if it has the same appeal as, say, things that actually get you high versus
Definitely.
a thing
No,
that
it
just
won't.
gives you cancer. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it would just
Well,
make it more
definitely.
cool, wouldn't it?
It
People be
might.
smoking because it's cool. It's like when cannabis has been legalized, people have teen use has dropped. They've seen that happen in all these different places, but it's not so rebellious anymore. You know, and that's what teenagers want to do. They want to rebel. So
But so many kids are more into vaping now anyway. Like a lot of kids aren't smoking cigarettes.
Are they going to do
Mhm.
anything about that, or they just want people to move towards vaping rather than combustion for their nicotine content?
I bet you the
No.
nicotine or the fucking tobacco company is making even more because you probably
Mhm.
you can dilute that shit, and these kids don't know what cigarettes are, especially
Yeah.
strong cigarettes. So they're like, "Yeah, I love this. Look at the cloud." Fucking
There's
awesome.
there's a ginormous education push in the US right now to get kids to stop nicotine vapes
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you know
Right.
they can be just as dangerous. But so right now, yeah, they were telling everybody use them before. Now they're telling everybody stop using them.
You don't need the nicotine, everybody. What you need is the THC, the Delta
Right.
9 THC. Get
Right.
that shit down. You'll be fine. You don't need the rest.
the
But-
cannabis.
But cannabis, the devil's lettuce.
I prefer jazz cabbage. Thank you very much.
Ah, nice,
Jazz
nice. Yeah, mate. But some people don't like the smell of it, so you have to be taking that into consideration when you're around their houses. If you do go out for a smoke, don't just stand in the back garden and do it because you're just going to bring the smoke back in. Go for a walk, man, and give it 10 minutes before you come back in after finishing your joint. Or you can take some edibles. You can go to March's website and listen to our podcast and find out loads of different edibles. There's definitely one that you're going to hear and be like, oh, that's my shit. I can put weed in that. So then you make your you make your edibles.
It's true.
Yeah. Make it edibles and
Well-
take that with you instead. And it might be a pain in the ass because you can't smoke and you want to actually smoke sometimes, but it would definitely be useful in between joints. You were smoking less if you take some edibles. What you say, Monkey? Sorry.
I was going to say what I learned from Marge's website is that you can put weed in just about anything.
Yes,
Mhm.
that's very true. You really
So
can.
yeah, depends what you feel like eating that day. Yeah, you can definitely find something for the occasion.
And you just got to time it right, and then you can be fucked up for your entire family gathering. So it's
Yes.
perfect.
Mm.
Depending on how you feel
Times.
about your family, you know. whatever.
Timing is everything.
Timing
with
is
edibles.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can either be happy or you can be completely fucked up. Take your pick.
Right.
Or both.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
but-
right.
Yeah.
You can eat one of Bubble Hawk's gummies and yeah, don't worry about it.
That's
God
right. I
damn.
would
Yeah.
be drooling at the table if that was me. But
I love them. They're so good. I
Mhm.
I had to stop myself having one before when I grabbed my coffee. It's every time I go to the fridge, I'm like, oh yeah. But I just stop myself.
So what about with the edibles? Do you think you should take some cannabis edibles round for like the Christmas table? You know, everybody sits around a table and eats food and shit and be like, I bought these special sprouts. Should you do that, or would you recommend that much? Not necessarily sprouts, but you know, something.
you mean like a dish for everybody?
But yeah, so people can partake if they wanted to.
No, I wouldn't recommend that.
No.
Honestly,
Fuck them up too much.
It's just tolerances vary so widely. And most people, if you're going to some kind of Christmas gathering, if they don't know what their personal tolerance is, somebody's going to get so fucked up. And then they're going to be like, I've seen it happen. Just, and a lot of the times at these things, people are also consuming alcohol.
Yeah.
Also
The
affects all that
piggybacks.
stuff. And
Yep.
somebody could have a tolerance of 5 milligrams, and then someone could be like Bubble Hawk with 100 milligrams, and then everything in between. So how do you know, like,
Yeah.
what to make that Christmas pudding or whatever the fuck you're making?
Yeah, and I
You
can
know,
see if
just-
somebody's a lightweight with alcohol and never consumed cannabis before. Now we got double trouble.
Right. Yeah.
So, ooh, too many variables.
There are a ton of variables. You're way better off bringing something that's like bite-sized so that you can make it really low dose, and then people can either eat one, or I guess in Bubble Hawk's case, it might be eating 20, but as long as you have enough. And that way they can kind of choose their own adventure, sort of thing. Yeah. That would be what I would recommend anyway. Or something that you can like add a sauce, an infused sauce, or have infused butters that you can put on it, or, you know, that kind of thing. So people can dose themselves based on their own comfort level. And if they don't know their comfort level, well, you know what to do. Just advise them to be careful, because this shit is powerful.
Yeah, because that's something I wanted to bring up in this as well. It's like some people are just curious, but they don't have access to cannabis, especially in places where it's illegal, like here in the UK. Some people just don't have contact for it, but they want to try some. So they might come outside, or you know, if you're sitting at the table, you're allowed to smoke indoors and shit, and they might come up to you and be like, "You're gonna take a hit of that shit." And this is where you have to like say yes. Of course, you want to share, but you have to be very careful with these newbies, especially if you're smoking proper weed, like your own homegrown, because you know that shit is the shit. And they're not going to be ready for that, man. You have to make sure that they understand that they are not like Bubble Hawk. You can't just chunk off this whole fucking joint and be like, think I'll have another. It doesn't work like that. You know, you gotta just a couple of drags, let them settle. And usually that's plenty for somebody who doesn't smoke cannabis often, just a couple of draws, man. Let them get
I
a
would
little
say
bit
even
hit off
one
it.
draw, like just one puff, and then like give it like 2 minutes, because it still takes a minute or two.
I would
And
even
then
say
they'll
10
know.
minutes, you know, because
Right.
sometimes different people,
Yeah.
you never know. Better safe than sorry. 10 minutes is a small price.
Yeah, and that might be like, oh, that's nothing until it's something.
Yeah,
because
most newbies are going to find that one hit will do plenty for them if they just give it the time.
Well, and I feel like too, a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't like to smoke weed because it makes me paranoid, and I've been that person before. I realize it's just I was taking too much, like I was just consuming too much.
Yeah.
And if you have like, you know, that one puff and you wait the 10 minutes, like Monkey said, then, you know, they can kind of settle and figure it out, and then they don't get that paranoia problem.
Yeah, imagine that, you know, they're popping around for Christmas and just eating a big juicy Christmas dinner. They used to have just a little toke on one of these fine lemon tree spliffs for dessert. And they're gonna be asleep for the rest of the day.
And maybe that's what you want. I don't know.
But it's better that than, you know, them being that hyper kind of stoned. You know, when people do that and they giggle at everything and shit. Like, come on, man, I'm trying to chill. You shut the fuck up.
I kind of enjoy a first-time smoker. I kind of enjoy a first-time smoker giggling and having fun with it, though. It makes me happy.
too.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun. It is.
That's a good experience. They'll do it again if that happens.
Yeah, that's it. And that's what you want them to have. But you want them to have a good experience, because then you have a good experience. If they like start being sick and all that shit, you're liable for that. You really have to look after that person until they're feeling better. And if that does happen, then, you know, some sugary drink like orange juice, some kind of fruit juice, that will have them feeling better pretty quickly. But it's your job to babysit the person. If you gave it to them and they, you know, smoke a little bit too much, it's on you, man. Fix it.
Sometimes too, I think this is where the vape pens, like the carts and stuff, really do come in handy for people who are curious, because there's not that compulsion to smoke more, like when it's a joint, because when the joint's lit and it's being passed around, I don't know, I just feel like you should smoke more, but you can easily just take that one puff with a vape pen and then wait and see.
Always a good idea.
Yeah.
Wait and see.
That's it.
Yeah.
Take it slowly, man. Don't be getting all crazy.
That's right.
Now, something that you may not have considered, and you know, it's holiday season and everybody likes to take your photographs and have some fun with cameras and things like that. But a lot of times, if you got a new person who's trying cannabis for the first time, and if something goes a little funny and people are snapping pictures, it can really be a bad situation. So I'm going to encourage people, when people get high, kind of lay back off the camera a little bit. Let people have fun and don't embarrass them so much with the photographs.
Get that camera out of my face.
Exactly. This is a chill time. Enjoy it
right.
a little bit, you know. Nobody wants to be sitting there and be haunted by their first time they ever got high for the rest of their life.
Yeah, remember it forever because they're that one bloke in the back that's white as all hell,
Yeah.
sweating.
Well, you know, it's
So-
like that experience is going to decide for them whether they do cannabis again. You know, if they have a nice experience on it, then they might try it again in the future. But if there's loads of people who have smoked weed for the first time, like March had smoked far too much, got paranoid, anxious, and, you know, some people have even been sick, and
Mhm.
they don't go near the shit again after that. It's like, oh, I tried it, but it's not for me. It doesn't work
Right.
for me. And it's like, you just fucking took it wrong. You didn't have the right guidance. So if you're gonna give somebody who doesn't usually smoke cannabis in any way, then, you know, you just look after them, man. Be their guide, be their shaman through their cannabis experience.
Start
It's like
low,
everything.
go slow.
Yeah, it's like it's same thing with alcohol. It's like if it's the first time drinking alcohol, you don't go out and down a bottle of Jack Daniels, do you?
Oh, let's go
you
do
know.
People
tequila
do
shots.
actually.
You're a
Yeah,
new
well,
drinker.
some
Let's
do,
go
yeah.
drink tequila shots.
What you being a
man.
lightweight
Get
for,
you-
man? Shit.
That's right. Chase that shot with a beer. Come on, do it.
But something else we should cover as well. I mean, because we mentioned briefly about the smell of cannabis when you're smoking it, but just the smell of cannabis on its own, without even being smoked and shit, that's strong, man. And you could be sitting at the table around your whole fucking family, stinking the room out of blue cheese. I've been there, done it. So
I love the smell, man. Come to my house.
but that's it. We love the smell. I mean, you get that fucking fine, pungent smell of dog shit weed, and you're like, that's my shit. And people are like, is it actually your
Literally.
shit? Because it does smell like shit.
Mhm.
You have to be careful, man. Not everybody likes that. So make sure you got a good airtight container. You can't just wrap it in cling film or, you know, put in a little pouch or something. It doesn't work. That doesn't keep the smell down. You really have to have a good airtight container to keep
There
the
is
smell locked up.
actually, I was going to mention this. There is a new product out on the market. It's not cheap though, but it's called Billow, and it's by the woman who invented the Ardent. If any of you are familiar with the Ardent decarboxylator. So she invented this device where you like put the joint inside this box and then you smoke it, and it totally contains the smell, which I thought was kind of interesting. Although it's pretty
Sweet.
expensive, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
But it's just kind of interesting that you know, because some people really don't like the smell, which I think is insane, but you know.
Just depends on the weed, doesn't it?
Or you can just go all out and stop all questions. Just attach a couple to your shirt like a brooch, just a couple of nugs.
I think earrings would do really well for you. You know,
Yeah.
a cola from each ear. You're good. They get the message.
Just bring a plant along with you. I brought my own Christmas tree.
Hang
Right.
it from the doorways there in the arch. You know, kiss under the cola.
Just a couple of autos hanging from the front door like a wreath.
That's it, man. That's now we're doing Stoner Christmas. This is
Yeah,
one of
that's
the
good
best
etiquette right
episodes.
there.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. But yeah, you know, and that's it as well. When people go to visit you, if you're hosting the party, you know, just be considerate of the guests. Maybe they won't like it. I know it's nice, it's your house, and you should be able to do what the fuck you like. But, you just have to try and be courteous to the people visiting. Smoke outside if necessary. And if you don't want the smoke to go everywhere, because people's neighbors as well, you know, if you're in the UK, you don't want your neighbors smelling because it's in all the fucking newspapers. Like, if you smell cannabis, then call the police and we'll be around in a few weeks to do something about it. You know, so, but TG, what's that device you have where you blow smoke into that?
Oh, this thing?
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh,
That's my smoke buddy. Doesn't really work that well, but
Oh,
that's
I
what I've
mean-
heard about those, that they work okay, but they're not great.
I think it would, but it's really hard to get a perfect seal around your mouth when you're exhaling. Plus, you know, like to contain, you know, I was just smoking hash, so my strategy is to just get the hash light lit and then just slowly inhale all the smoke, and then all of it goes through here. But it never works, even if I don't get any residual smoke off of here, because I think it comes through the corners of your mouth, and probably the carbon in here gets fucked up pretty quickly.
but it's the mainstream as well, isn't it? Like the smoke that comes from the stuff you're burning that doesn't go through the pipe, that just goes up in the air.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, these do work kind of. I wouldn't say rely on them entirely if you need to be completely stealthy, but they will help, you know,
Mhm.
They got a
mitigate a
reduction, but
little
not,
bit.
not an elimination here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know one
Especially
thing we
trying
used
to
to do
cough
when
through
we
it.
used to host the parties back in the day, it was always known that there was cannabis going to be there, but we always did it in a room that was not the main room, out of the way. And if you wanted to smoke, you went to the smoking room.
Hmm.
And that way, if people came and they didn't want to partake, they knew not to go to that room.
Yeah.
It's probably the best thing, I think. Yeah, unless you're inviting fucking narcs over.
Yeah.
I hope your family and friends aren't narcs, you know, but so like
Yeah.
you don't have to be that fucking stealthy, but more just like you don't want to inconvenience people. Just like I said, my girlfriend Cheryl has asthma. I don't smoke in the house at all. Even just the, you know, I like I joked before, I can't really smell weed right now because I was smoking hash, but there is, even with all my carbon filters, like I grow lots of weed. I have fucking weed everywhere here. It smells like weed in here. And so it is hard to mask. It's a very strong smell in a place where weed isn't. When you bring weed there, it fucking stinks it up. So yeah, just, you know, try and be fucking not like fuck you, man, or something like that, because like that generally doesn't go over well.
Right.
And it's just like, yeah, be polite and but
Don't be
still,
obnoxious.
you know, people have to compromise too. So, you know, just don't go in that room if you don't like weed. Basically.
And the difference is, you know, if we throw a party and it's well known that it is a cannabis party, now the rules change because
Right.
it's everywhere. Because you know what,
Especially-
Right.
when you walk in the door, you already know what you're coming to.
Fucking rights, man. If I'm hosting a party, for example, and you're like, I don't like the smell of weed, it's like, well, fuck you. I don't know, like basically, I don't fuck you, but like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
I don't like the smell of fucking diesel, but we don't ban diesel cars, you know?
Right.
So just don't come, I guess. It sucks. And I guess if you don't like the smell of weed, though, I probably don't like you anyway. So
I was just gonna say, TG, there's no way you'd know anybody that would ever say that. So
Yeah, I don't like the sound of your voice. So how about you fuck off?
no,
right.
Yeah, be polite, but you know, if they start it, then fucking fuck that shit. Tell them to fuck off.
well, there has to be a line drawn, right? Especially in Canada now. Like you have to expect fucking, especially like Marge said, booze is always there. And it's like, yeah, fuck yeah, I got 224 of Coors. Here's my fucking 40 of fucking Wiser. Boy, I got cookie in my mouth. But like, booze is like fucking so much booze, you know? And
Yeah,
people are
yeah,
just
yeah.
like,
We've got
that's
the whole kitchen
perfectly
counter
fine.
is covered with booze people
Right.
bring. You know, it's laid
People go
everywhere.
to the LBS to get more booze because they're out of booze, you know? But then weed is just like, wow, you smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah, I bring a small paper bag with an ounce of weed in it, and people go, "Wow, all that weed, dude! That's 28 grams. That's nothing."
Yeah,
That's,
you know.
I'll
that's what
have
I.
gone before lunch. Like,
Sorry, but yeah, I mean, compromise I think is important, and people need to, yeah, depending on where you are. But here, it's like, yeah, come to my house, motherfucker. Come on.
Yeah, you know what you're gonna get here.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna smell of weed. If you don't like it,
Probably.
then just don't come around.
Yeah, probably we're gonna go straight down to my fucking grow room, and I'm gonna be like, look at this, look at these things, holy shit. That's what
I'm
we do.
coming to
as
spend
growers.
Christmas at TG's.
Look at these,
You know,
yeah.
it's like, yeah, I'm gonna have a joint right now. Would you mind stepping outside?
yeah.
And they can go stand outside in the cold, and then when you finish, you can just wave them back in, like, it's good and done now. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, if you have a place, I would say like that's at my auntie's house. That's what we were the last year. It was fucking hilarious actually, because I thought that was the place where you just smoked, but it was really cold. I didn't want to open the windows, so I just thought that was the smoking place. But apparently you didn't need to open all the windows. It was just like the place that was kind of okay for smoking. And my uncle came in, and I smoked like 3 joints sitting out there, fucking whatever. And you really couldn't see anything. It was so fucking smoky in that room. And he's like, holy fuck, she's blue in here. And he was not impressed at all because, yeah, the rest of the house obviously did stink. And because it wasn't the smoking room, it was just the room you smoked in, right? So, yeah, other people's houses maybe, but, you know, be cognizant of shit. Ask if it's
John
okay.
Finnegan said here, so according to Mackie, get everyone fucked so they have to go outside for fresh air and you can chill on the couch and enjoy a spliff. Nice, Mackie. I don't know how I said that in any way, but if that's what you heard, John, that's cool, man. Roll with it. That's good for you. Do it.
What about the old bathroom, man? I got a bathroom downstairs with the fan on it. I do that
Mhm.
Yeah.
sometimes. That's
I think
pretty cool.
every stoner has a little room in their house or a spot, a dedicated smoking spot.
Yeah.
You just got to ask.
Mhm.
I have an ashtray in there. And like, you know, I used to wonder as a little kid why people kept ashtrays in their bathroom. And I was like, oh, that's probably
Now you know.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
is there anything else here to add about etiquette? You know, I would just like to say again, just be polite. You know, be a good representation of the cannabis community. So people, when they think of cannabis users or stoners, then they think of you and how much of a good example you set. How chilled you are, how relaxed you are, and shit like that. They're trying to. I know I joke about, fuck you then, motherfucker. But really, just try and be as polite and respectful as possible. But don't let anybody take the piss out of you as well. You know, use your own judgment.
Use this as a reminder to clean your glassware.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Don't
That's
bring
that's
out the
etiquette
embarrassing
for
bong.
sure. Yeah, don't give them like this. Oh, this is actually pretty nice right now, but I used to have some soy sauce in this motherfucker.
Yeah, man. Somebody
Yeah.
brings one of those things out. Hey, you want a hit? Oh,
Did you
yeah.
put cola in that?
What the hell?
Yeah, that's not etiquette. Do not give them a dirty bong, especially if it's like
Yeah.
first time smoker and you're just like, ah, you know,
Gross.
that's good
Mhm.
weed in there. Oh, I have some terrible memories of bongs that have never been fucking cleaned. And
Ugh.
No, I've actually
That's
got
gross.
spare volcano
Buddy's
bags
crazy.
around that I give people clean volcano bags if they come in. visit.
ugh,
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
just
I mean,
like,
it's polite, you know. It's one of those things.
Mm.
yeah.
So, what anything for you to add here, Monkey? Before we,
Not really. Not really. Just, you know, it's just being a good representative of the cannabis community is all we're
Mhm.
saying. You know, be responsible, have fun with it, though.
Yeah.
You know.
what are you saying, Bubble?
Yeah, I pretty much the same line. Pardon me. It's essentially just pick your spot, be respectful of other people, clean your glassware, and always bring a bud to the party. Because if there's another smoker there, you don't want to be the only one with the weed, you know, vice versa.
Mhm.
Always take a little bud just in case.
And
'Cause you
that's a
never
good point
know.
as well, because people in Australia and the UK would usually put tobacco with their joints. And if they are cigarette smokers anyway, they're going to want to use their own brand of tobacco, which they prefer. So that you can give them a bud then, and they can, well,
Yeah.
you can make a joint for them, maybe if they can't do it, or, you know, they might be able to build their own, they'll prefer it with their own tobacco in it. Sorry, TJ.
I don't know if it was said, but again, like just like with dosing, if you put tobacco in your joints and you give me a joint, tell me there's fucking tobacco in it so I can decline politely.
Mm,
So I will
Mhm.
not smoke that joint.
Oh, God. Oh, that's
I
disgusting.
agree.
Yeah.
That's
Not a
a
joint.
good point. Yeah.
Yeah, not
See,
that
like
it's
I-
important, but it's kind of nice to even know what's in the strain that's in that joint when you hand it to me. I don't know. I
Yeah.
kind of like that.
What about
Yeah.
you, Marge?
But-
What would you like to add?
I think everyone's kind of touched on everything. The only thing that was popping into my mind maybe is that if you are dealing with somebody who is curious about trying cannabis for the first time, or they're very occasional smokers, be really cognizant of how much alcohol they've already had to drink. Because again, I've seen some pretty messy situations where, because the alcohol
Like
amplifies the
literally
cannabis.
messy.
Yeah, yeah. It can be very unpleasant. And sometimes like that cannabis will make the effects of the alcohol even stronger. And if they're, you know, had quite a bit to drink already, that's really going to affect the results. Yes.
About
Yeah.
you, TG? Anything to finish up on there?
No, I think that's all good. You know, like be cognizant of who you're going to visit and who's coming to visit, you know.
And the old golden rule of don't be a dick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I would and I'd also add, if you're a grower like myself and you have the capacity to like, you know, like Bubble Hawk said, bring a bud. I like bringing bags now, you know, like
Bring a jar, damn.
Yeah.
people, like, we all know how inexpensive. That's why we do this show, really, is like we need people to get growing because it's various reasons why money is a big one, right? It's stupid expensive. So when you bring a fucking bag, 2 bags even, of like some nice homegrown shit, and you're just like, yeah, grab it, you know, people are like, are you sure? Are you fucking serious? Kind of thing. Even here still, because it's like this would cost so much for me to buy, but for
Right.
you, and it's, again, people really, really appreciate it. And
yeah.
because, and as a grower too, I love when people love my weed. I'm very humble about it, in almost like, I don't give it out because I'm worried people don't like it, but everybody always does like it because like it's good weed, not the best, I'm sure, but it's pretty good. So I always love sharing, but and yeah, if you have the capacity to share, I guess is my point.
People love free weed because
Oh,
I've
yeah.
done
Yeah.
I did that at my daughter's staff party a couple months ago. I just brought a couple jars of weed, and I don't
How crazy is that?
propose-
My mom's gonna bring some weed round for
Yeah.
us, everybody.
Oh, I always do. But like you
I'm
just
rolling
leave it
some up.
there. Yeah, I brought
works.
papers and stuff too, and a grinder and everything, so they had everything that they needed. But it's kind of fun to do,
Nice.
and I like doing it. And then they compliment my weed, even though I'm pretty sure I grow like pretty average weed. But
Show Enough has a question here in the chat. He said, is it proper etiquette to attempt to convince religious family members that Jesus used oil in his miracles, cannabis oil in his miracles? So I wouldn't even try and avoid topics like that. You really don't need to get into
I
those.
answered that question in the chat, and I said 100% it is.
Oh, right, okay.
Well,
As someone
I
who grew
mean-
up in a religious household, I'd say, yeah, stir the shit. Why
You know,
not?
Jesus was a stoner as well. You know,
That's right.
Jesus was a degenerate like me. Huh?
Mhm.
That anointing oil, we all know what it really was.
Yeah, I've heard Steve Reisner talk about going into churches in Oklahoma trying to convince them to vote for legalization back in the day. And he used to bring in CBD cream and give it to the elderly in the crowd and say, hey, try this. 10 minutes later, ask them how their hands were, things like that. But he would actually just tell them point blank, God's put
I'm
this plant on
healed,
earth for us to
Jesus. It's a
use."
miracle.
Well, it's like this plant was put here on this earth by God for us to use. Point blank. That's what he did. So, hey, go
And
for
it's a
that.
good argument
It's
if you're a
true.
fucking Bible fundamentalist.
Just time and a
Right.
place, man. Do you really want to be spending Christmas Day having debates about religion on baby Jesus' very own birthday?
No, because I've already dosed on edibles before I got to
I
the
was gonna-
party, and
yeah.
I'm just having fun. Oh, yes, it is, man.
I was gonna say if I'm high, I'm all for it. Like,
Right.
You know, I'm atheist as fuck, man. If somebody's having that conversation, I happily just sit there and watch them backwards and forwards like fucking tennis
Yeah.
match.
Where's the popcorn?
Yeah,
Fun.
but realistically, there's no point even starting it because you're not going to change anybody's mind. It may be the people listening to the discussion, but you're not going to convince anybody of cannabis being a good thing if they think otherwise. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, some people have had it drummed into their head that long. It's just what they believe, and you
Mhm.
can't change it. So
It usually takes a significant emotional event to change those people's minds. Like if someone that they know has had pain and this was the answer, that's what
Yeah.
it takes.
And is it like frankincense or myrrh, some kind of herb that people smoke? Is it myrrh?
Mm,
I don't know.
frankincense was the
Incense or something, but they burn
Yeah,
to cover
right.
up the dead body smell.
yes, for embalming and whatnot, funerals. I guess I don't know what the other one was.
Mhm, mhm.
I'm not a religious expert.
There's gold, frankincense, and myrrh. If you're talking about the three wise men,
I know what gold is.
yeah.
No, what is that?
Oh, really? You don't know what that is?
No, what is that? Is that
No,
that
the-
metal that's like the same color of piss? That's that one?
Yeah,
It's,
yeah. If
it's
you
the
have any
stuff
of
they're.
that nasty piss color metal, just send it my way. I'll take care of
All
it.
right,
for you.
yeah, cool. I've been looking for a place to get rid of this.
No problem.
Yeah, we also have one question here in the listener mail in the show notes here from Beaker Bongs, who put it up over on the forum. And Bubba Hawk, you might be able to say something about this because you know about PGRs. He asks, could you explain what PGRs are, how to recognize buds that's being grown with them when compared to bud that has been grown using PK boosters? Maybe some examples of products to steer away from and others that actually help. You got any input on that, Bubba Hawk?
So PGRs generally refer to plant growth regulators. So these occur both naturally and there are some synthetic ones. Ideally, you want to try and steer clear of them as much as you can in your growing efforts. However, seaweed is a PGR. So anything that's like a seaweed, like your root boosters and things like that can be PGR. They're completely fine to use. It's more, I think there's about 3 of them from memory. I did have 3 of them written down because I did see that one. I'll see how I go with this. Paclobutrazole or PBZ, diminazide, and chlormequat chloride. They're the ones you kind of want to steer clear of. They're the most commonly used here.
I hear dihydrogen monoxide is a bad one as well, right?
Yeah, it's yeah. We will steer clear of that. See, I try and steer clear of all of them. You know, if you're growing it yourself, you know, chances are, unless you're going for things like bud candy and all of those extras that promise big fat buds and quicker growth and things like that, generally your main lines are going to be pretty okay. But if you're looking to tell the difference between a PGR bud and a standard bud, the biggest thing you'll find is lack of trichomes. You'll have more sort of those brownish red hairs. They tend to be just covered in it. Lack of smell, and it'll be a more dull color. So you tend to have more of the browns through it than any of the greens. So it's not as vibrant as a homegrown clean nugget. So that's the easiest way. But yeah, the lack of smell is a big thing. If you open that bag and it smells like hay, you know, and they're smaller, dense nuggets like little rocks covered in brown hairs, chances are that's been grown with a PGR. So you want to try and avoid that if you can.
The swag, you don't want the swag.
You don't want the swag.
Whatever.
That's right. But that's all to do with what the PGRs do to the bud in its growth stages. So yeah, it makes them a little bit more solid, and it will grow quicker depending on what you're using, but the quality suffers. And then because they're usually in such high concentrations, it never flushes out of the product itself. And then you end up ingesting that when you smoke it or vape it. And you can generally tell if you're getting a really racy high with headaches and coughing a lot, like, you know what your normal smoke is going to taste like, and you get a bit of a cough with any weed if you hit it hard enough. But with a PGR, it's generally, you know, almost like it's been sprayed with fly spray, I think is the easiest way to put that. If you can imagine something being sprayed with fly spray and then you smoke it and you get that headache, that.
Can't imagine that. It would be horrible.
It's not nice. It's not a nice thing. Easiest way to avoid it's grow your own.
Yeah, grow your own, man. Grow your own.
Mhm.
Grow your own, man. Grow your own.
Yeah,
Do it.
that's it.
Boy.
We always say, keep it simple, grow your own.
Yeah. And we recommend that for everybody. You know, if you have the ability to, some people don't have the ability to, and that's just unfortunate. But if you have you've got all arms and legs working properly and shit, then you really do have the ability to do it somehow. If you're disabled and you haven't, you're not active enough to do that kind of thing, then that's going to stop you, obviously. But if you're like physically able to grow a plant, then you should do it. You should find a way and get it done. That's the best cannabis and the safest cannabis you're going to get, even if you're in legalized areas. Do your own shit, man. It's going to be the best. And you have plenty of it as well, which is always important. You know, like TG said, you got enough to share around everybody. You can take jars and bags everywhere with you, which is always fun.
I've personally thrown shit out that people have brought around. And just, because they bring it around, they're like, check this out. Well, that's just shit. And throw it in the bin, and then I just give them some of mine. I mean, look, I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't throw it in the bin, but if I'm looking at it and it looks in any way, shape, or form like it's been grown with a PGR, I'm not going to let my friends smoke that shit.
Yeah.
So I'll just chuck it in the bin and give you some of mine. I don't care. You know, at the end of the day, I got plenty because I grow my own. So you know,
nothing. So
yeah, exactly. A couple of buds to you means nothing, but it means everything to that person's health.
Nice. And the last question there is from John Finning. He says, "You want to adopt me, Marge?" I already asked, bro.
No, I don't.
No,
I already, all my kids are out of the house. I don't have to worry about them anymore. I do not want to take on any more responsibility.
And you sound like a lot of responsibility, John. You seem like high maintenance, mate. No offense.
Right.
So yeah, there we go. That's it for the grow guides today. We're going to have another 420 in just a few minutes. So we'll go to the outro and then smoke up. You know what I'm saying? Let's do the outro. But there we go, everybody. That was the last episode before Christmas, and it's the last episode for a week or so because we're taking a break over Christmas. So there won't be any episodes to download next week, but feel free to go back through the back catalogue. There's over 200 episodes for you to go back, download, and listen to any one of those. But I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you very much to every single one of you who goes out and downloads the podcast every week. We really appreciate every single one of you guys who takes the time to listen to the show. And it's real good to know that you all enjoy it. And I hope you have a good Christmas. Hope you have a good New Year. And maybe we'll catch you on some of the Christmassy live streams that we'll be doing over on YouTube at youtube.com/highandhomegrown. You know where to find us. And of course, if you can, drop over to percysgrowroom.com and say hello if you're not a member already. So anyway, again, have a good Christmas, happy holidays, whatever it is you do, just make sure that you have a good time. Stay high, stay safe, and we'll speak to you next week. Have a good one. Goodbye.